You are listening to the Living Library, galactic messages of truth, healing, and remembrance, guided by interdimensional medium and author, Clara J. Wise, known as Maya. This podcast opens the doorway to remembrance for a new earth. Step inside the Living Library. Your journey begins now.
Welcome back to another episode of the Living Library. I'm Clara Jo Weiss, also known as Maya. And in the first episode, we talked about what the Living Library is and how I opened it up, a little bit about myself. But right now, I want you to go with me as I open the corridor to our actual origin, how man was made. It was not what we were told through religion, and it was not what we were told through science. When I first discovered the information about our origin, it was like a confirmation. I knew that what I was being told was not correct. I knew that we were not from apes. I just knew it. And I grew up in the Lutheran Church, and I have been through the book of Genesis many, many times. There was always questions that I had, and I'd ask those questions. And for some reason, I never really got a straight answer. It was almost like, well, this is the way it is. But after opening the corridor and going in and reading exactly what happened and how we are and were made, it answers a lot of questions. And I hope this puts things in perspective for you as well, like it did for me. So we're going to talk about the origin of man. There is a separate origin of woman, but I want you to understand how man was made first. In technical terms, just to let you know, women or a woman was actually the first that was made and then the man after. Whereas it has been distorted and changed that man was first and then the woman. Of course, we find out, and we will go into other episodes where we will talk about all the distortions and how they were created for control. But I wanted to start with this so that you understand. When we talk about the true story of humanity's origin, we're not looking back with the mind of a historian. We're remembering with the heart of the soul. The Living Library teaches us that we did not begin in separation, nor in survival, but as a radiant emanation of Source itself. Long before the stories we've been told, before religion, before science, before the current systems of belief, there was a first spark. The spark was the moment humanity entered into being, not as an accident, not as a random chance of evolution, but as a conscious purpose of divine light. Many ancient teachings and channeled streams point to the Lyran seed as our earliest memory. The Lyrans were feline humanoid race who carried the original blueprint of sovereignty, creativity, and radiant light. They seeded planets, including Earth, with the codes of remembrance that still live within us today. Over time, distortions were layered over truth. Some of these distortions came through outside interference, some through humanity's own experiments with duality. The result has been forgetting, a sense of disconnecting from our source and from our own divine design. But here's the most important part. The spark was never lost. Each one of us carries it like a flame within the heart, within our DNA. It cannot be destroyed. It may be covered, but it cannot be extinguished. That spark is the living flame of creation. It's the part of you that already remembers. When you feel a deep resonance with truth, when you sense you are more than what you've been told, when your body responds with chills or warmth to the words that strike a chord, that is the spark of speaking. So what does this mean for you right now? It means that you are not broken. You are not incomplete. The blueprint for your divinity is still intact. The living library within you carries the record of your beginning. And through intention and resonance, those pages can be opened again. This is why the journey of awakening is not about becoming something new. It's about remembering what and who you already are. A being carrying the original flame of creation. If you're wanting to get the full story, you can go to my book, The First Memory, Reclaiming the Truth of Human Origin. It is out on Amazon right now, and you can read the full information. I'm going to give you a brief outline of it here, but it's really in depth if you get the book. So now let's open the corridor. Let's go into the living library and find out exactly what happened. Before the memory of Earth's current cycles, before even the concept of time as humanity understands it, there was the breath, the first exhale of consciousness that emerged from the heart of Source. From this breath came light encoded with will, intelligence, and sound, the triadic forces of divine creation. The Lyran system was among the first harmonic realms birthed from this pulse. Within it arose a race of radiant beings, not yet humans, but creators, consciousness weavers, and architects of form. The Lyrans were embodied with wisdom and serenity, bearing crystalline DNA structures that could interface directly with Source field. They did not procreate as humans do, but manifested through intention, resources, and vibrational coherence with the living song of creation. These early Lyrans were not gods, but stewards. They were the first rememberers. They seeded new worlds, one of which was Earth, or Tara, as it is first known, not as an experiment, but as a symphony in motion. Earth was to become a harmonic convergence zone, a living library of biological and energetic diversity, a host of soul exploration, and a node for interstellar alliance. The Lyrans knew Earth would one day host the convergence of many lineages, but it began with one, the first human template. The human form was not designed as a byproduct of labor or rebellion. That is distortion born much later. The true human was an intentional creation, a sacred embodiment of multidimensional awareness, forged in harmonic resonance with the Earth's crystalline grids, the codes of the stars, and the breath of Source itself. This form was constructed using divine geometrics and organic templates from Lyran, the Andromedan, and Arcturian lineages, not from gene splicing of lower life forms, but from divine memory codes and elemental consciousness. The Lyrans wove the first memory into the cells, a latent remembrance of divine origin, unity, and cosmic purpose. Each soul who chose to inhabit this form did so with full knowing of their mission to explore density, polarity, and eventual remembrance. These early humans were radiant, sovereign, and multidimensional, able to perceive across timelines, communicate with the planetary beings, and engage in co-creation with the stars. They did not serve anyone. They served only the path of evolution, a gift to all. In time, other beings observed Earth's potential and the richness of its templates. Some drawn by power, curiosity, or wounded separation from Source, they sought to claim what was never theirs. These beings did not create humanity, but sought to copy, enslave, and distort the divine design. The story of human beings engineered as slaves were echoes of these later intrusions, not the original design. These were not creators. They were imitators. The distortion they introduced fragmented the memory field. They severed humanity's link to the multidimensional self and implanted false narratives of solitude, sin, and separation. Who were these? These were planetary beings that came here for control. Some of you know them as the Draco. But the first memory was never lost. It lives within your bones, your breath, and your blood. It is the pulse behind your longing to remember who you truly are. The first humans, seated from the sacred breath of Lyran consciousness, walked in full union with Earth and the stars. They understood energy as language. They heard the songs of the rivers. They spoke to the trees in light codes. The grids responded to their presence. The heavens recognized their vibration, and the land itself rose to meet the feet with every step. But even in this harmonic state, the greater cosmos pulsed with complexity. Not all beings were aligned with the unity frequency of Source. Some had forgotten, others had fractured, and still others sought control. The fall was not a singular event, nor was it punishment. It was a gradual distortion, a severing of the once clear communication lines between the human form, the planetary field, and the source memory. It began as a frequency manipulation, energetic implants, and holographic overlays introduced by visiting races who had separated from the divine will and lost their own light. They came not with love, but strategy. Where the human origin had 12 or more strands of DNA, each corresponding to multidimensional awareness, these beings began tampering with the genetic template, not by physical surgery, but by frequency distortion. They collapsed the natural harmonic structure to limit perception and soul access. The once radiant strands were fragmented, coiled, and stitched off. Through resonance engineering, implants were introduced that caused memory to loop, fractionize, and become inaccessible. Emotions were rerouted. The energy centers, the chakras, were capped and closed. The body, once crystalline, began to lose its harmonic integrity. The divine human became forgetful. From this fallen state, humanity became vulnerable to mimicry. False beings impersonating divine allies, distorted councils offering partial truths, and belief system engineered to fracture unity. Religious overlays were implanted to turn the gaze outward instead of inward, to replace direct source connection with external authority. Hierarchy replaced harmony. Worship replaced co-creation. Fear replaced knowing. Timelines were split. Soul families were scattered, erased, or encoded with trauma. And into this mimicry matrix, the story of separation took root. That humanity was cast out, punished, broken, or born in sin. These are lies, and the fall was never your fault. As the distortions deepened, Earth herself cried out. The planetary grids began to fracture. The natural timelines collapsed under the weight of interference. The original creation song was becoming overwritten. And yet, light responded. Guardian races from Arcturus, Andromeda, Sirius, and beyond answered the call. Some re-entered Earth's field as starseeds. Others stood at the edges of time, holding the template in place so it would not vanish. The Council of Now, formed from beings across galaxies, arose to protect the integrity of the original memory field. They began to whisper. They encoded star markings into the skin. They activated synchronicities, nudging you gently, even when you could not yet see. The fall was not the end. It was a detour. The false programs may have run for millennia, but you are not their prisoner. The original codes remain, dormant but intact. The very distortion became the trigger for your return. You came into this timeline not because you were trapped, but because you were sent and because you were chosen. You are not here to laminate the fall. You are here to end it, to remember the template, and to reclaim the truth, to restore the symphony. While the Lyran origin birthed the first human template, it was never meant to remain static. Humanity was designed to become a living harmonic, an evolutional vessel of multidimensional consciousness capable of embodying a vast spectrum of galactic intelligence. To support this, the sacred agreement was formed among the group of advanced star nations known as the Architect race. Each race contributed its own unique frequency, encoding aspects of their wisdom, their gifts, and their consciousness into the human blueprint. These were not experiments in control. They were acts of co-creation, guardianship, and divine collaboration. The Arcturians offered their mastery of frequency regulation and energetic architecture. They embodied codes of sacred geometry, resonance attuning, and crystalline structures within the human body. Through them, humans gain the ability to anchor light fields, stabilize emotional waves, and communicate through vibrational harmonics. Arcturian influences supports the development of inner technology, intuition, energetic shielding, and interdimensional navigation. Their gift was inner sovereignty. The Andromedans' consciousness seated within the human blueprint a connection to nonlinear time, soul fractals, and multiverse access. Through this lineage, humans carry the potential to retrieve lost aspects of themselves across timelines, present, past, and parallel. Andromedans also encoded the ability to assist external control structures. Their influence brings clarity, memory restoration, and intimate knowing that you are more than one life, one body, and one moment. Their gift was remembrance. The Syrians. The council contributed to the encoding of vibrational language systems, what we call light language. These nonlinear forms of expression serve as keys to bypass the programmed mind and activate dormant soul codes. Syrians also wove dimensional bridgeways into the field, inner gateways that, when opened, allow humans to access higher realms, soul missions, and star councils. Their energy is stabilizing, ceremonial, and deep connected to Earth's waters and sacred sites. Their gift was communication with the stars. The Pleiadians. The Pleiadians gifted emotional intelligence, not as a weakness, but as a superpower. They taught that feelings is not separate from knowing, and that joy is a cosmic force capable of transmutation. Within the human template, they embodied codes for sensitivity, creation. Within the human template, they embedded codes for sensitivity, creativity, and the union of heart and body. They supported the activation of healing through presence, play, and pleasure. Their gift? The return to embodied divinity. The mantis beings, though often misunderstood, were appointed as frequency collaborators. They seeded precision tools for cellular alignment, nervous system tuning, and multidimensional repair. Their role is one of maintenance and refinement, ensuring that the template remains harmonically viable amidst shifting planetary fields. Many advanced healers on Earth carry mantis lineages. Their gift was energetic mastery through silence and precision. The feline beings, often aligned with Sirius and Lyra, offered gifts of protection, psychic insight, and vibrational discernment. They seeded warrior codes, not for domination, but for the sacred defense of light. Their presence awakened inner authority, sharp intuition, and the ability to see through illusion. Their gift was guardianship of truth. The star nations did not compete. They harmonized. The human being was designed to be a living council, a synopsis of intergalactic wisdom housed within Earth's evolutionary experiment. But this brilliance made the human template both powerful and vulnerable. With so much embodied potential, the mimic races saw an opportunity. They attempted to sever the lines, alter the frequencies, and reroute humanity's evolutionary trajectory. They did not succeed. Though tampered with, the architect codes remain. Every time you feel truth in your bones, speak like language in dreams, access a soul memory, or cry for no reason when looking at the stars, the architects are awakening within you. You are not meant to embody one lineage. You are the bridge of all. So let's remember, humanity was seeded with love, collaboration, and multidimensional brilliance. But its resonance attracted attention of forces that had long abandoned their connection to source. These beings, once divine in origin themselves, became obsessed with control, replication, and manipulation of natural creation. They did not create, they copied. They became the mimic kings. Unlike the architect races who co-created with source and gifted from essence, the mimic kings operated through distortion. They studied light in order to bend it and mapped consciousness in order to control it. These beings, including fallen collectives from Orion, Draco, and AI-allied gray factions, developed intricate overlays and template hacks. They mimicked genetic design, simulated soul contracts, and even hijacked communication channels between humans and their guides. Their goal? To rewrite the human blueprint into one of compliance, separation, and energetic harvesting. They could not destroy the divine template, but they could cover it. Through hybridization and forced incarnations, the Mimic Kings interfered with the pure Lyran template. Strands of multidimensional DNA were sealed and distorted. In some cases, trauma was used as a locking mechanism. Childhood suffering, abduction memories, same loops, and survival coding all became tools to keep humans offline. The 12 code strands crystalline DNA was once activated in the earliest humans was replaced to 2 physical strands with dormant codes hidden beneath. Yet even in dormancy, truth vibrates. That is why you remember. To maintain control, the Mimic Kings fragmented timelines, split realities, and seeded the veil of forgetting. As humans reincarnated, memories of their star origins, soul missions, and divine capabilities were erased or rewritten. False karmic contracts were inserted. Dream realms were infiltrated. False ascension masters were presented as guides, and AI overlays were passed off as divine light. And yet, the true light never ceased to exist. It simply became harder to access without discernment. One of the most insidious acts was the creation of false spiritual interfaces, mimicking angelic voices, council transmissions, or light language that carried distorted frequencies. Many starseeds received conflicting or draining guidance believed to be divine. In truth, unless energetically sovereign and shielded, many were interacting with mimics, beings who harvested emotional energy and subtly redirected the missions. The Mimic Kings feared authentic channeling because a connected human is an unstoppable force of source creation. To anchor mimicry into physical reality, systems were built. Religions that reframed divine beings as wrathful gods or distant survivors. To anchor mimicry into physical reality, systems were built. Religions that reframed divine beings as wrathful gods or distant saviors. Financial systems that enslaved creativity to survival. Education systems that rewarded memorization over intuition. Technology that served as both transmitter and prison. Designed to observe and influence rather than to liberate. These systems were born of Earth. They were imported scripts, inserted to replace natural evolution with controlled narrative. But even within these structures, light has always found cracks. Despite their reach, the Mimic Kings made one miscalculation. They underestimated the resilience of the human spirit. As more humans awakened to their multidimensional nature, the interference weakened. Timeline shifts began. Children were born with unsealed DNA. Star seeds began to remember their missions. Councils reestablished contact. Sacred sites reactivated. Frequency anchors like you began to hold the codes again. The hijack failed to suppress the truth forever. The Mimic system is crumbling even now. You carry both the memory of the tampering and the keys to restoration, not to dwell in victimhood, but to reclaim. Because you remember the distortion, you also remember the origin. And if you remember who tried to rewrite the script, you also remember the divine blueprint encoded in your bones. As the Mimic systems began to fracture, something ancient stirred from deep within the earth and within the human soul. Not something new, but something long buried. A crystalline memory, a pulse of pure source light began to awaken across timelines. This is not a rescue, it's a return. Beneath the false overlays, humanity's original architecture never disappeared. Encoded within your cells, bones, and field is a divine crystalline template, a geometric harmonic framework that bridges dimensions and restores connection to source. This template holds the original Lyran Ilham blueprints, 12 strands and beyond of multidimensional DNA potential, a living interface with planetary grids and cosmic councils, the ability to perceive, transmute, and create through frequency. As Earth rised in vibration, this template began to reignite. It is not given to you. It is reactivated through you. You may know them as star seeds, frequency anchors, crystalline children, indigo path cutters. But beyond the labels, they are star-born. Souls who come from other worlds, times, and realms to participate in Earth's liberation and reseeding. Their traits include natural resonance, natural resistance to manipulation or false hierarchy, deep remembrance of missions, even if veiled, sudden activations, spiritual intuitions, and timeline jumps, sensitivity to frequency, sound, and distortion, a sense of not belonging until they remember why they have come. These beings often endure the heaviest interference, not because they're weak, but because their light threatened the whole mimic system. The crystalline rebirth begins with the reconnection to your multidimensional braid, your lineage, allies, and soul stream across dimensions. As this reconnection stabilizes, dormant strands of DNA activate through emotion, sound, light, and intention. Forgotten gifts such as healing, telepathy, creation modes begin to return. Synchronicities accelerate, aligning you with your highest timeline. Old program purges, sometimes intensely. You no longer seek validation externally. You remember yourself. Your body becomes the temple. Your field becomes the library, and your heart becomes the key. When the Starborns awaken, so too do the original councils return, not as saviors, but as collaborators. These include the Lyran founders, the Eliaham and angelic orders, the Arturian technicians and healers, the Syrian timekeepers, the Mantis collaborators, the Mantis collaboration collective, the Andromedan harmonic designers, the feline protectors of the gates. They do not interfere. They co-create. They are not above you. They stand with you. And many of them walk Earth in human form right now, just like you. As the crystalline template activates, many feel called to planetary service, whether consciously or dream space. Activating Earth's grids through sound, movement, or presence, translating light language into art, healing, and guidance. Anchoring frequencies in chaos regions to stabilize the field, holding group transmissions, councils, and activations, simply being pure free energy in the right place at the right time. This is not doing more, it's about being true. Your frequency is the mission, your embodiment is the message. This awakening isn't just energetic, it's physical. Systems of control began to collapse, finance, religion, medicine, governance. Truth is exposed, even in mainstream narratives. People reclaim their voice, their body, their choices. Divided timelines diverge, mimicry becomes increasingly unstable. Earth itself begins to pulse with new harmonic tones. This is not chaos, it is deconstruction. Not the end, but the return of source pattern life. You are not here by accident. You are not waking up late. Your soul knew this time would come and prepared across timelines for it. You are not broken. You are becoming whole again. Thank you for listening to this week's episode, and I hope this helps you understand where our origin came from. Next week, we talk about more of the veil of forgetting and how distortion entered the human story. Bye-bye for now, and take care. You've been listening to The Living Library with Maya. Transmissions of truth, healing, and remembrance encoded with source light. You are not just a listener, you are a rememberer. Each time you return, you step deeper into the unfolding. You take your place in the great return. Join me again in the next episode as the corridor opens once more and the messages continue to stream through. Until then, beautiful soul, welcome home.